February 13th, the Tower of London. A girl barely out of her teens walks slowly down the cold stone corridor. Her trembling hands clutch a small prayer book. Her face is pale, but her eyes are wide with terror. This is Catherine Howard, the fifth wife of King Henry VIII. She is walking toward the scaffold and her death. The night before, she asked for the execution block to be brought to her cell. She spent hours practicing how to kneel, how to position her head, how to die, a disturbing ritual of despair performed by a girl who had once worn a crown. But how did a teenager go from Queen of England to traitor, condemned to die under the axe? To understand, we must go back to the man who ruled her world. Henry VIII, then nearly 50, bloated, bitter, and plagued by a festering leg ulcer, had just annulled his disastrous fourth marriage to Anne of Cleves. Marriage had become a bitter game for the aging king. He wanted beauty, he wanted obedience, and in the courtly chaos that followed, he found both in Catherine Howard, a vibrant, playful lady-in-waiting to his former wife. Catherine was no royal. She had no grand education, no powerful allies, except for her ambitious uncle, the Duke of Norfolk. After her mother died young, Catherine was raised in the chaotic household of her grandmother, the Dowager Duchess of Norfolk. There, among other young girls, Catherine slept in a communal dormitory known as the Maiden's Chamber, a place lacking both supervision and protection. It was there that her innocence ended. First with her music teacher, Henry Mannix, who fondled her and whispered secrets in the night. Then, more seriously, with Francis Dereham, her grandmother's secretary. They called each other husband and wife. They met in the dark when everyone else was asleep. These youthful indiscretions might have remained buried if Catherine had stayed away from the royal court. But fate had other plans. When she arrived at court in 1540, she dazzled. Just 17, beautiful, full of life, she caught the eye of the king. And Henry was smitten. He called her his rose without a thorn, and in a whirlwind of obsession, they were married just weeks after his divorce. Henry was reborn, at least in his own mind. He showered his teenage bride with jewels, dresses, estates. Catherine smiled, danced, performed her queenly duties. But behind the glittering image of the ideal Tudor queen was a girl trapped. Henry was a revolting husband, physically and emotionally. His ulcerated leg oozed pus and stank so badly that his courtiers avoided standing too close. He could barely walk, and yet he expected youthful devotion. Catherine did her best, but temptation came in the form of a young, charming courtier, Thomas Culpeper, a gentleman of the king's privy chamber. Their glances turned to notes, and then to secret rendezvous, arranged by none other than Jane Rochford, the same woman who had helped destroy Anne Boleyn. But Catherine's past was already catching up to her. Francis Dereham, her former lover, appeared at court. Knowing he could ruin her, Catherine made a fatal mistake. She gave him a position in her household, hoping to silence him. It did the opposite. While the royal court toured the north of England, the Queen and Culpeper grew reckless. With Jane Rochford's help, they met in locked rooms while the king slept nearby. Meanwhile, back in London, John Lascelles, a Protestant reformer with a grudge, revealed Catherine's scandalous past to Archbishop Cranmer. The Archbishop, terrified of Henry's wrath, didn't speak the words aloud. He wrote them in a letter and left it on the king's private pew. When Henry read it, he was stunned. At first, he refused to believe. He launched a secret investigation, hoping it was all lies. But evidence mounted. Servants from Catherine's childhood confirmed her relationships with Mannix and Dereham. Worse, a love letter written in Catherine's hand to Culpeper was discovered. It ended with the words, "My heart and body are at your command. I wish I were in your arms, for it would ease the ache in mine." That sentence sealed her fate. Henry was shattered. His pure rose had betrayed him. He wept openly. He demanded a sword to kill her himself, Then, in a storm of rage, he abandoned Hampton Court and refused to ever see Catherine again. Catherine was confined to her rooms, unaware at first of the storm swirling outside. When she was finally told, she panicked, running through the palace, screaming Henry's name, begging for mercy. The guards dragged her back. The palace had become her prison. By November, she was stripped of her title and taken to Sion Abbey, then later to the Tower. She confessed her past with Derham, but denied adultery with Culpeper. It didn't matter. Both men were arrested. Under torture, Culpeper admitted he wanted the Queen carnally, though he stopped short of saying it happened. It was enough. Culpeper, being noble, was beheaded. Derham was not so lucky. He was hanged, cut down alive, disemboweled and quartered. His screams echoed through London. In January, Parliament passed a new law. From now on, any queen who failed to disclose her sexual history before marriage, or even intended adultery, would be guilty of treason. On February 10th, Henry finally signed the death warrant. Catherine was just 19 years old. She spent her final days in terror, practicing how to place her head on the block, hoping to die with dignity. February 13th, 1542. The scaffold is set up near the site where her cousin, Anne Boleyn, was beheaded 6 years earlier. But unlike Anne, Catherine is not graceful. She is not composed. She is nearly hysterical. Eyewitnesses say she had to be carried to the scaffold, her legs unable to support her. Her final words were, "I die a queen, but I would rather die the wife of Culpeper." A single blow ended her life. Catherine Howard was dead before her 20th birthday. Her body was dumped without ceremony in the chapel of St. Peter ad Vincula, near her cousin Anne. Henry forbade mourning. All her portraits were destroyed. Her name erased. But Catherine Howard's story is more than a cautionary tale about adultery. She was a child, unprotected, uneducated, and used by powerful men. A pawn in a political game she never truly understood. History branded her foolish. But perhaps the truth is far more tragic. She died because she was young, because she trusted the wrong people, and because the man she married expected obedience, not love. Today, a simple plaque marks the spot where her headless body lies, and her story remains a chilling reminder of how dangerous it was to be a woman at the Tudor court, especially if you were a queen.